talking about a study by William Masters and Virginia Johnson on how psychology views human sexuality. So before the study was done in 1950-1960, most of what people knew about sex came from surveys or self-reports. Nobody knew what actually went on inside the body. It was a gray area. But Masters and Johnson wanted to really change that. They aimed to study physiological responses of men and women during sexual activity and to help overcome sexual problems and dysfunctions. So they hypothesized that sexual behavior could be studied scientifically. Men and women go through distinct and measurable stages of sexual response, and that could understand how to treat these sexual difficulties and explain things. So, to test their theory, Masters and Johnson made a lab experiment with hundreds of male and female volunteers from different ages and different backgrounds. Participants were observed while engaging in sexual activity, whether it's alone or with a partner, in a controlled lab experiment. The researchers used medical instruments to record physiological data such as heart rate, muscle contractions, blood pressure, and changes in the genital response. They're very careful to make sure it was a very comfortable and respectful environment, ensuring that valid data was collected in a controlled environment as well. So, to summarize the results, Masters and Johnson discovered that sexual response follows a predictable pattern. It's 4 stages of the sexual response cycle, which is excitement, plateau, orgasm, and resolution. They found key differences that women are able to have multiple orgasms without a break, but men need a break before they can respond again. Another important thing is that penis size does not matter sexual satisfaction, and they debunked that myth. I think it's still a big myth today, but you didn't hear it from me. Anyway, the significance of this study is that it was groundbreaking because it openly talked about human sexuality as science rather than just this weird gray area. It removed shame and misinformation about it, and people were able to openly talk about it. Masters and Johnson's findings provide a physiological foundation for understanding the sexual function and to treat it and diagnose it like any other medical issue. So how can we apply this in the world? Their work directly led to modern sex therapy, how to deal with problems like erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation, and people to be more aware of what they are doing in the bedroom. So, to wrap it all up, Masters and Johnson's study changed how society understands sexuality, transforming this gray area into an actual field of science that can be treated and helped. So, the work not only improved psychological, but also it helped mental, medical, and healthier and more confident, fulfilling lives resulted from this. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm pretty sure that all of us experience facial emotions from time to time. Sometimes when we feel normal, or sometimes when we're just like, what the heck is going on, we react like this. Sometimes when, let's say, we failed our midterm exam, we can feel like this, and our facial expression is gonna be similar to this. You guys' facial expression. But sometimes, let's say, when you got a date with a girl, or when you got 100% on psychology, you feel like my GOAT, LeBron James. I love this guy so much. My glorious king. And today we're gonna talk about it. So pretty much there was a guy, and his name was Paul Ekman, and he conducted a study on this, on the facial expression and emotions, and it helped to answer a big question of psychology. And it was about that our facial expression sometimes are not like from our culture, but it's just like a part of human nature. And at the end of the time, many psychologists saw that facial expressions were learned behaviors, that they might mean different things in different cultures. But this guy, Ekman, he believed in the absolutely opposite. He believed that facial expressions are biologically built into us and shared by all humans. And so, pretty much his, his hypothesis was that people from any culture, even though they were from completely isolated Iceland, they would still be able to recognize the same basic emotions. And so in order to test it, he went to the Papua New Guinea with a group of people, outside of the world. And the researchers told participants a short story, and they were just looking at their facial expressions. And after a short story, they were just taking pictures and they were asked to match the emotions in the story. And the funniest part about it is that the results were really fascinating. And even though the 4 people had never been exposed to Western media or culture, they correctly identified nearly any emotions: happiness, sadness, and anger, and disgust, and surprise. The only confusion actually came in between fear and surprise, which are actually easiest for people to mix up. But in pretty much the significance of the study was absolutely huge. It showed that all the emotions and facial expressions are not just learned through cultures, but innate. It's a part of what it means to be human beings. And Ekman suggested that this expression evolved as a survival mechanism. Feel warn or danger, anger to protect us, and disgust to help us avoid harmful things. And this automatic response likely helped early humans to survive and communicate long before language was exist. And Erickson's research had a very lasting influence and has been used to develop emotional development in children and to study what individuals without him sometimes struggle to recognize facial emotions. And overall, it was proved that it's no matter where you're from and what language you speak, emotions are universal. And our faces communicate feelings that everyone can understand. And natural emotional language connects all humans around the world.
So in this section of the reading, we focus on the connection between stress and illness. The reason behind the study by Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahe was to investigate whether life changes, negative or positive, can be associated with increased risk of psychological or physical illness. The study was done in 1967, and the hypothesis was the higher the amount of life changes, the greater likelihood of experiencing physical or psychological illness in the future. A method or procedure that Holmes and Rahe developed was the SRRS, or also known as the Social Readjustment Rating Scale. Big word. Title. There were 43 life events on the table, such as death of spouse, divorce, letting go of a job, etc. Each life event was assigned a numerical life change unit score based on the amount of life adjustments required. So participants were asked to rate how much readjustment in their life each event would require or cause. The summary of this was they found that individuals who scored higher on the cumulative life change unit had higher rates of physical or psychological illness. The significance behind this was that it helped build the field of health psychology and stress research by showing that major life events are trivial risk factors for illness. This means that life transitions may carry stress and health risks, so individuals and clinicals should be alert to cumulative change and adaptation demands. Anyways, hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.
Alright guys, have you ever wanted to do something that you really didn't want to do? I've been there. That's what the classic 1959 psychology experiment by Festinger and Carl Smith is about. By the way, I'm reading off my phone, so just bear with me on that one. But okay, I'm going to try and get through these quick, so I'm going to kind of summarize. But one reason the study was done, psychologists wanted to figure out what happens when you force someone to lie, pretty much. And then two, our hypothesis here. Festinger's big idea was counterintuitive. He predicted that the people who paid the least amount of money to lie would actually end up believing the lie the most. And then the overall summary of the results was the group with $20 both rated the task as truly boring. The $20 was a great reason to lie, so they didn't have time, so they didn't change their attitude. The $1 group rated the task as genuinely fun and interesting, and even though they got only $1 to avoid lying, they still had a good time. Significance of the study. The study is huge because it proved that we are all motivated to have internal consistency, which is pretty good to know, pretty cool to know. And application of the material. Cognitive dissociance is everywhere today, literally everywhere. It explains why so many people stick with bad relationships or justify like a big purchase, or what, honestly, with why smokers even sometimes say like, I know smoking is bad, but like I'm gonna die one way or another, you know? So yeah.